the people who are going to impact Northern College football in 2025. We had a defensive player region, okay? The defensive player who won, it's just me and Bill voting, and then made it to the Final Four was Koi Perich. That's how good we think he is. That's how important we think he is to Northern College football and Minnesota football. That's what he's been and the potential that he has. What do you think about Koi Perich as our most important defensive player?
Well, I think him being in the Final Four is a really good selection. I think he's a really special college football player. We consider him our unicorn. They don't come around like that very often. And when they do, you got to make sure that as a head coach, one, you're not giving him too much, but you're giving him everything he can possibly handle. And you can put him in every position to change a game, offensively, defensively, and special teams. And him being a kick returner, punt returner for us, him playing a little bit of offense last year, but now going to play more in a significant role of not just a gadget guy, but be involved in the offense more. And then obviously being one of our best safeties. But, he can't do that without his entire team. And I know that sounds cliche, but, you've got to have a really good supporting cast for somebody to do that. You've got to have really good coaches, and you got to have support of the players around you that know you're not just doing that for a recruiting tactic. You're doing it because he's one of the best players in college football. So I think you're spot on. Just like the NCAA committee, in my opinion, out of 68 teams got it right. But the Final Four, I think you guys hit it spot on.
We appreciate that. Sometimes people don't love our selection committee, so let me.
Having a Minnesota Gopher in the top 4 guys, you guys should have had 2.
I know we got a lot of, we talk Gophers all the time, PJ, we got to tell you. So I'll tell you, last spring, Ryan Day at Ohio State sprinkled briefly the idea of could Caleb Downs play a little offense? And we went nuts. Colorado, it's like, hey, what's Travis Hunter? So Caleb Downs didn't play offense for squat. And we were like, oh man, Travis Hunter revolutionized college football. On the Caleb Downs, Travis Hunter scale, where can Koi Perich really fit in here? Like, are you guys really going to do this? Because this is a great spring football topic, but you're getting us fired up, PJ.
Yeah, no, I mean, we're definitely doing it. I don't think we're going to ever waste time on doing something to show something that we wouldn't invest a ton of time in. I think last year, he played sparingly on offense because that was an experiment of just seeing, can he do it? What could we do with him? He had just got there in June. I don't think what people don't realize is that this is a true freshman that got here in June, right? By December, he was first team All Big Ten, second team All American. He was an All Big Ten punt returner and kick returner. And he hasn't even been through a full spring ball yet. So we didn't even get a lot of time to say, what could he do? How much can he handle? Is he going to be able to handle all of this? And you're not, the time to adapt to that's not week 6, of a season saying, okay, we're just going to throw him on offense, because you've got wideouts and running backs and tight ends working all year, perfecting their craft to earn the right to get a ball, let alone somebody who hasn't done that yet, just walk in the facility and not do all the integral parts that of being a great receiver, a greater running back, make you special. So it's going to be a lot of fun. It's been a lot of fun since January of what Coach Harbaugh and our offensive staff have created for Koi, and the credit goes to Koi too, because we're putting a lot on his plate.
PJ, what were the conversations like with your equipment staff getting that split jersey we saw Koi wearing the other day? Like I saw the quarterback said they were mad because they couldn't quite see him because he's wearing the same color as the defense. Now you got him split maroon and white. Was it easy to get a hold of that jersey where your EQ staff had their head spinning there to get?
Well, saying he can't see him is just an excuse. It's why
yeah,
right. I didn't see him, coach. He's wearing that jersey. I said he was wearing the same jersey, a week ago when you threw the interception before we changed it. So, that was something that, sometimes I'll just throw something out there in a staff meeting. And our staff does such a good job of taking what I say, putting it through a funnel, knowing what's actually real and what I'm not going to actually need and want. Because you're just you're almost spitballing ideas, and literally just said, I think we should split his jersey in half. I think it'd be really good for, him, because we got pennies and you got orange pennies and yellow pennies, and you're throwing something over his head in between a play. And I'm like, just split the jersey. But it's not about splitting the jersey. Our equipment manager, Brady Gagnon, he has all types of things he's good at, including being a seamstress. This guy, the seams are flawless on this jersey. This looks authentic. It looks real. It looks like it was created from Nike just for Koi. So Brady deserves a ton of credit for the craftsmanship of the way the jersey looks.
Details matter.
Oh, that's right.
But now Koi wants, he's wearing different. He's wearing one shoe white, one shoe black. He
Created a
wants
monster.
half of his helmet maroon, half of it white. He's got one maroon glove, one white glove. It's like, okay, now of course, Koi has taken it and ran and put it at a different level, which if you know Koi is so Koi.
Yeah, you're going to have kids throughout the state of Minnesota splitting their clothes in half all season. I love it.
He's a trendsetter.
Yeah.
He is. So we're talking about Koi Perich, PJ, obviously one of the best players in college football, and nature of the sport being what it is. You got to make sure you're doing what you do to keep those guys on your roster, right? And I thought you guys did a really nice job of keeping really almost all of your kind of star power that wasn't going off to the NFL draft on your roster coming back this year. With your NIL set up the way that it is, how much do you guys prioritize retention and making sure that you're taking care of your guys and keeping your roster where it needs to be? Obviously, you have to add from the outside too, but what are the steps in that process as you try to identify retention and then addition?
Well, we still have another portal season to get through and
Sure.
navigate through, obviously. But we've had a lot of retention success when you look at it, especially from our starters, for the most part, all staying intact and staying here. You'll lose some depth guys because I think guys really want opportunities to go play, and our program's full of transparency, and you got to have those conversations with them. But this goes all the way back to recruiting. When the transfer portal hit, NIL hit, look, I'm at Minnesota. We're not going to have the highest NIL budget. Like we're not going to ever be the highest bidder for a player ever. The TV money that helps, right? Because I think that's where a small piece of the parity is. Whether it's Ohio State, Oregon, Minnesota, in the TV money we have parity, but the NIL we do not have parity. It is still Major League Baseball, right? Some people could have 30 million in NIL. Some people could have 3 million in NIL. And I know people are trying to get their hands around that, but that isn't parity at all. So when you're at a program like Minnesota, you've got to recruit, retain players who might value so many things before they get to money. All money does is enhance the things above the money and what you actually value. It just enhances it. Doesn't make your life any better. It doesn't make your life promised. It doesn't bring you fulfillment. It brings you small satisfaction pretty quickly. And then boom, life hits you in the face. But what do you value? And if money's the number one thing you value, we'll never be able to hold on to that kid. So we create still this life program, academically, athletically, socially, spiritually, a program of serving and giving that players come here to go be the best men they can be. Husbands, fathers, football players, people. That is what we still do. Maybe we're a dinosaur walking the planet right now where a lot of teams went to transactional relationships. We are truly a transformational relationship, which is even harder to do now because it's easier just to make it transactional. So I think for us, we have to find the players who don't just value money, but we understand money is a piece of it. But if you can create this worldwide experience that makes their life better, you have a better chance to hold on to that player when money's getting thrown at them left and right. And I'm not an idiot. I'm not saying our players haven't been thrown money from other people already. I mean, we all understand what's going on in college football right now. But we've had a really good retention rate, and it isn't because we're the highest bidder. And I think that's a compliment to our coaches, our staff, our administration, the environment we create for our student athletes, not just football, but all the other student athletes that people really want to stay here and keep growing. And that's a compliment. And these days it's hard to have them. So I'm just proud of our players.
Does that emphasize even more? I mean, you need to be a development program. Everybody needs to be a development program. But sometimes now there's the possibility that a guy that you recruit and develop, someone might come pluck him away. So you've got to be ready to recruit and develop somebody else. And like in a weird backwards way, it can almost be a compliment of like, hey, like we helped this guy become what he is. And now look, everybody wants him. How do you feel about where you guys are with that part of it, of being able to maybe take guys who you found in recruiting and then build them up into something?
Yeah, I mean, we're always going to be a developmental program. And I think you even said that everybody has to develop at their own pace. I think what this has created for us is we've always been a developmental program. Even go back to Western Michigan and what we've done at Minnesota. And I'm not saying we've always done it with just redshirting players and going through it, but the old college football, you had 4 or 5 years to develop a kid. into what he wanted to be. I mean, Tanner Morgan, our quarterback here, was the all-time winningest quarterback a few years ago. He played almost 7 years here. So there was a lot of time to develop that kid. I think with players with outside influences more than ever, whether it's agents, right, that have a say in what they're doing, telling them to get to the NFL faster because it's a young man's game, maximize how much money you want to make in the National Football League, maximize how much money and the experience you have in college football, but do it in a shorter amount of time. So I think that we've had to adapt a little bit to, okay, we're still a developmental program. Close to 80% of our players are still high school players that come here as high school players and develop through their senior year and degree and things like that. But I think you got to do it in a shorter amount of time, whether that's a 1-year transfer you get, a 2-year transfer you get. High school players, you are a little bit more of like, okay, this is this year's team. How can we squeeze all the juice from the orange for this team and develop everybody at their own rate on the field, off the field, but let's expedite it a little bit better and really kind of cut off the fat of maybe what we could get away with in the past, we can't get away with now in a good way. I was just saying they have so many other people in their ear telling them whether it's true or not. They have way more people in their ear telling them what they should do. So we just have to do it and maximize it in the shortest amount of time possible for that particular year. Because you can see whether it's the NBA or college basketball or college football or the NFL, I mean, you need to win, and you need to win now. The days of taking 3 to 4 years to turn around a program, people aren't as patient anymore. And if you're at a program with sustainability and you're winning, one tough year gets everybody doubting a lot faster than it may be in the past.
You brought up quarterbacks, PJ, so I'm going to go to quarterbacks. What you guys did last year, bringing in Max Brosmer, and I'm still, I think we're all still trying to figure out transfer quarterbacks and what's the best way to work all that. But I thought to bring in Brosmer and have a young quarterback like Drake Lindsay and to have the older veteran who is ready to play, who is helping mentor a younger guy. And now we see, it seems like they had a great relationship. And here Drake Lindsay is. What did you think of that setup in the quarterback room? Because I think, it can be one thing to be like, oh, it's going to grab a transfer. I don't know. It felt like there was I felt like a plan to that. How did you think that worked out with Brosmer and Lindsay in there?
Yeah, I mean, I prefer to have a player that's there 3 to 4 years at the quarterback position.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I prefer that. That doesn't mean that it's always going to be 100%. There are people who prefer opposite of that. I prefer that type of leader, organizing, leading, managing, developing the whole team from the player perspective. And we've always had that, whether that was Zach Terrell at Western Michigan, whether that was Tanner Morgan here. And with this bridge that we had in between Max Brosmer and the next quarterback, like that was critical for us because we didn't want to go all in on just a true freshman quarterback. So we needed an experienced veteran who could give us a ton that we could, let's call a spade, that you can go afford, right? That you can have without spending $4 million of your whole NIL on one player, because you have to surround them with really good players too. So we had to really think strategically. Max Brosmer was a perfect fit for us. It was a perfect opportunity. What he was looking for, he wasn't looking for. And this takes a lot of maturity. He wasn't looking for going into a room with 4 guys competing. Everybody's getting told the same thing. And hey, it might work out. It might not. He'd stay at New Hampshire if that was the case. He was looking for who was in our type of situation where he could get in there. He could play at this level. He could keep developing and he could mentor the next young quarterbacks. And I think it was a perfect marriage and a perfect fit. And now we have the opportunity with Max Brosmer handing that torch off to the next player who's really going to develop and hopefully lead our team for the next 3 to 4 years.
PJ, I want to ask you about your running back room, your backfield, because we had Darius Taylor on the show last year at Big Ten Media Days. He was great.
He's a great
and
kid.
I still think he's one of the more underrated players in the country still somehow, in my opinion. But you add to that room with some pretty dynamic running backs. And the thing I want to ask you about that is I guess twofold. One, what does adding the kind of depth you added do for Darius in terms of workload in the backfield? And two, you guys did use Darius, I thought, more as a slot receiver last year, maybe than you had previously in his career. Does adding what you've added in the portal at running back allow you to use Darius in different ways as you go and look at your offense, what it could look like in 2025?
It does. If you go back to Darius in high school, Darius was really a high school receiver until his last year. And he's got such natural catching skills, natural wide receiver skills, movement skills, spatial awareness of the wide receiver position. he's just trapped in this running back body, and he happens to be a really good running back as well. And I think his freshman year, we found out a ton of what he can and cannot do. And then last year, I thought Coach Harbaugh adapted our offense really, really well to fit Max and Darius. I mean, Darius has just as many catches as he does, when you're looking at his carries on Saturdays. But what it allows now is some versatility to get some other backs on the field at the same time, where you're in some unique personnel groupings that might necessarily not fit the normal 21 personnel or the 12 personnel. You can get some unique formations and personnel groupings out there with multiple athletes from wide receiver to Koi to Darius, but also a running back on the field with some really good tight ends. We have never had this versatility from top to bottom on offense of people who can do so much. And I think that's what this spring has been about, is what can we do? How can we continue to evolve our offense into what fits the skill personnel that we have on offense and make us the most explosive offense we can be? But Darius Taylor is a center point of that and always will be. And this year was a big focus was let's become even a better running back than we were in the past, because I think he's always been adapting to that a little bit. I think even more of a wideout, he's a little bit more natural than he was as a wideout as a young player here. But now he's becoming a really special running back, along with having the gifts that he does in the pass game.
So we're talking about all these things, right? We're talking about, you have dynamic guy on defense, dynamic guy on offense. You got a lot back. You retain players, you develop players. And Doug's been on this, so I don't want to steal his thunder a little bit.
Steal.
Like Minnesota feels like it's ready to elevate in a 12-team playoff world. And I'm wondering, looking at last year, looking at some of the teams that got in, especially a team in your conference like Indiana, like what did that show you guys about what is attainable for your program now that we have, thankfully, more access to the postseason in college football?
Yeah, that expansion is very real, and expansion is very necessary, and expansion benefits people like the Minnesota Golden Gophers, especially in the college football playoff world. And, I talked about this, whether this was the BCS or whether it's college football playoff. We talk about that here. When you look back in past seasons, 2019, we would have been in the playoff, right? So when we fathom like we can do it, it isn't as far of a reach as it used to be. And I think it's more realistic, and it helps the cultural sustainability of people staying a long period of time when you're at a place that can do it. Doesn't necessarily mean it's going to happen every year, but the possibility of it happening is very real. And I think that's where, even in recruiting, people see that. I mean, what we're doing in recruiting is historic from the Minnesota development high school players level and the surrounding states. And more people, because of the cultural sustainability, this is year 9 for us. Look at years 9 through 14 as, hey, these could be the best years since the 60s for Minnesota Golden Gopher football. Could be. Doesn't mean it will be, but it could be. And I think that carrot is obtainable, and it's reachable, and it's always now in front of us, where I think in the past, when there was only 4, I think there were plenty of data points that would tell you that it was almost impossible for us to be able to do that, for any team of our nature to do that. But now it's incredibly realistic for somebody within our conference. Every year is going to do it. So hopefully we have some home playoff games here in January in the state of Minnesota.
I'm looking for my calendar. I'm booking my travel, PJ. But we will be there. We will be there the moment that happens. Thank you for not saying, well, we don't talk about that. We don't want to think about it, because we're talking about it. Like we'll send you the clip, Minnesota playoff dark horse. That was our last. So like we're there. We see the possibilities, and I think it's so good for the sport, PJ. Like I think
you bring up, not to interrupt you, but I think you're bringing up a good point. First of all, we're proud of what we've done.
Yeah.
But we're also really excited about where we could go. And I do love talking about it. And this is a team you can be really transparent with. There are some teams, to your point, you can only say so much. But when you have a team that you really believe in, it's okay to talk about it to them, because I want them to have that realistic expectation and goal. If you're never really even talking to them about it, they're like, why does our coach never talk about winning championships? Why do they not talk about the college football playoff? Are they afraid? Do they not think we can actually get there? That is the last thing I want in my players' mind. That's the last thing I want in my staff's mind. Now, if I know we're not very good, I never really talk about these things in the first year that I take over a program, or haven't, because it's going to have to need a lot more watering and fertilization for that thing to happen. But any year now, as we continue to, with the portal, every team kind of reloads, you do have an opportunity. You just have to win those one possession games. In 19, we were 6-1 in one possession games of the 7 we played. This year, we were 3-4. If we were 6-1 again, we would have been in talk for that college football playoff. So every team is that close, especially a team like Minnesota, when you're going to be in a lot of one possession games by the style that we play, that it's going to happen. It can happen. And it's okay to talk about it with your team.